Hey everyone, we're doing something a little different today, a little relaxing game. This is Townscaper, and calling it a game is a little bit of a stretch. It's more of a playground for building a city however you want on this very nice, still ocean. So what I've done here is I started with one island and kind of built it up, and then I built some other islands. Idea, kind of do a quick tour of the city, and then we're going to add something to it, kind of show you how this goes. It's a little city builder, but there's no game mechanics, there's no time limits, there's no resources. It's just something where you can kind of build whatever you want. So over here we've got different colors and things. You can kind of see some different colored buildings. And as you build stuff up and then remove pieces, you're going to kind of make different shapes. I can't control necessarily what kind of roof I want in a certain place. Certain things will appear at certain heights. I can't necessarily control whether there's a dock or something like that on a tile, but I can decide where I want, little walkways, paths, homes, houses, that kind of stuff. So I started over here with this initial island, and this kind of being the center of the city. Notice I've got this tower as kind of the city center. This was the initial starting area, and then I do have another tower. So these are the tallest buildings in the city. Nothing else is allowed to be taller than these. This one, I kind of in my head, is city administration. This is maybe military administration, something like that. So we have over here a nice little house kind of tucked away. So this is for the person running the dock. So the kind of idea here in my head is that, there's boats traveling around. I don't really want things connected that much. I kind of wanted the idea of boats going back and forth. There's no way to add boats, but they're just kind of there in my head, sort of the way I'm building this up. So I have that as for the port. This is a little bit of a military establishment, just a very nice little home here. There's a whole residential area here of small homes. You can kind of see I do like the little docks going down, and then a few taller ones on the end. And then here on this little extra area in my head is kind of like a little university. So this one here, this whole area on this platform is a bit of that. What I then did was sort of expanding out and built this then as a way to kind of play around with the different colors. So some interesting designs for a home here to kind of dock, and then person who lives here sort of taking care of that and then having a place to live. Different colored homes here, and a couple of them having a little extension out going over the canal, and having a nice little walkway on both sides of this, and a little house sort of hidden away with a little hidden balcony here. And you can zoom in pretty far, but it gets kind of weird when you're near the edges of the map and stuff, which you can't really see here, but we'll kind of see if I do the overlay. And then added a little bit of a strange place here. I just like this because of the laundry line hanging out there. I thought that was kind of neat. Initially, I had these all connected as kind of a gate of sorts, and then a little red house on the edge with its own little private yard. Very nice. So yeah, from there, we built up something that I kind of viewed like the other tower was sort of just here just because there's different shaped areas you can build on, which we can pop open here if we want to look at the grid. So it's not necessarily like a square. Things do kind of naturally form these little islands and then different pathways and stuff, so kind of flowing. So here we've got like an area that in my head is sort of a military base, something like that, old-fashioned muskety type stuff. We have a home here, a very wealthy mansion on their own little private island. I then built this as kind of an idea of having a main street and all the homes coming off of it. So I do like the way some of these turned out. And we have the nice archway here, the steps going up. I do like the little spire roofs here. We've got this one that's not even supported. It's just sort of secondarily connected there. Little tiny white house with its own little private deck there. Very, very nice. A little interesting sticking out walkway here between the two parts of this house. We've got these little standalones, and then on the end we have two identical houses, just different colors. So I built this as most recent thing, the idea being, you can see if we sort of zoom out here and look around. So also, yeah, we'll take a look here. So this is kind of the extent, the maximum point. So like I can't back the camera up further than this because I'm pushing up against an invisible wall here. So there's a limit to how far out you can build stuff. I think it'd be really cool if you could control like waves and stuff, or you could say for sure what kind of roof you wanted or docks. There's other weird things that'll pop up sometimes. So this was the most recent addition that I added. The idea here was to sort of have a canal and then have homes that would sort of cross over the two. I feel like this first one turned out good. I wanted to play around with different colors, and I wanted to put a bit of a gap between them, and I did. It's really hard to see stuff now that it's all built up. So we've got this very large overarching building here that kind of connects over this one because of just the shape, sort of jutting out in interesting ways. So things don't line up. They often curve, as you can kind of see. And then this one, it's sort of mirrored. Both sides have this, although it's kind of hard to see because of the other buildings. I initially kind of wanted to go sort of wider towards the middle and then taper off. And it worked out pretty well, but it's kind of hard to see some of the stuff, and I'm not sure I like the colors. There's no way to quickly change the colors either. I'd have to destroy all of this and then rebuild it in the color I want for it to actually work. And then just, a nice big deck up there. I thought this was an interesting design I was able to kind of create by taking out bits of stuff. And then on the end, we have something that looks very church-like, which I thought was kind of an interesting way to sort of build this up, just to cross over. So yeah, there's a nice canal. I mean, there are some posts sticking down, but what you gonna do? And depending on what you do, there is ways to like have hooks hanging down or other stuff, depending on how things are built, how high up they are, that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think we're gonna build another little area so you can kind of see how this goes. Where do I want to put... Where do I have space, really? I don't want things to connect. I think everything's good the way it is. I do have this sort of end here on my initial structure of the base island that we started with. I do like having things pretty spread out. I could just put something maybe towards the edge, but that gets a little weird with placement and stuff. And it's hard to see because you can't really back up the map onto some of that. So unless you just put concrete or something like a path or walkway along an edge, it's not really going to work that well. But we could maybe do something like that. We've got a decent amount of space here, here. This is a game just about kind of fiddling with stuff, enjoying as you play. Like we could make a little island right there. Can't really do a lot with a standalone island. Like you could make a very small one, you could make quite a big one, as you can kind of see. But I don't want to add anything quite that big. I like sort of the sprawling, smaller islands that don't connect. Is kind of what I prefer. That's kind of what I'm messing with. You can make new ones, but I'm worried if I make a new... Like when you start, it's just nothing. It's just flat, calm water. I'm worried if I start a new one, this is just gone. So there's no like save. It's just new. Open maybe means I can do that. I can save to clipboard, but I don't know if that'll actually save it the way I want to like just reopen and fiddle with it whenever I want. So I feel like we have a decent amount of space here. Or we could do something weird on the edge. I kind of like, because especially if we turn the grid off, it's just super calm, reflective water. So I don't know that I want to mess with the edge, especially with the way the camera, like I can't back up any further, it starts sliding around and stuff. It's just a little weird. And even here, like it doesn't want to go forward. Yeah, for some reason I can't move the camera forward from here. So yeah, it's being a little strange, getting hung up on weird invisible stuff, and sometimes hung up on the buildings too. So it's this is a very, very cheap little thing you can buy and kind of play around with. I bought it and just started, messing around with it, and like an hour went by and I didn't even notice. Let's see, how about... We'll do something on the edge here. No, it's actually going to expand out now. Interesting. All right, so I hadn't really pushed out to the edge, so I guess we can't really do something on an edge. Can I still... Yeah, I can kind of move. It sort of erases the world as I do that. Kind of go in. Yeah, it still doesn't let me like move the camera further forward. So what I'm gonna do, and we can't change the colors here. You would think it would depend, but we're actually on gray, and it always does kind of this red brick lining on the edge there. So if we just want to build up, we just click whichever color we have, that's kind of what it goes. And as we go higher, of course, it'll do different things, get more narrow kind of as it builds up. You can do weird stuff like this, take bits away, add them back in. We can make connections, do this kind of stuff really easily and quick. It's not awful. See, like here, I would prefer having a single one with a pointy roof, but I can't do that. So, I mean, that's not awful. That's an interesting little ending, I think. This is kind of a strange shape here, though. So I think what I'm going to do, because we have this little stub on the end, it's kind of a neat little house there. Let's do something kind of like this, although it may not. Yeah, it's not really going to connect because we have kind of an angle. We can't do angled connections. So I'd have to, if I want to do something, I'd have to connect it like this, which then makes it not look so interesting to me. So it kind of wastes it. And I don't necessarily like this. I do like the little small, incredibly tiny little tower on the end there. What I might do, we make this thicker. Then let's go with a bit lighter. Is that too bright? It's fairly bright. Just sort of add some unusual little bits and pieces. Yeah, that's kind of nice. Yeah, don't like that quite as much. Yeah, just a little tiny little thing out here. A very quick and easy little bit. I do like the way the red and the orange look, but also the gray is quite nice. The greens and stuff don't really do it for me that much. Something we can do if you want to see something interesting, we can change the position of the sun. So we can not only change the position, how high it is, but then how low it is, which will give a nice sort of reddish. So we can get this really nice colors if we want to mess with. I kind of like for building just to kind of see what it would look like sort of about noon with the sun high in the sky. But you can do some really cool lighting if you wanted to. Changing the angle, if we wanted to like... Not even sure where the sun is here necessarily, the direction. Coming from there. So we could do something like this. If you really want to see things looking a little different, just change the lighting a bit. Go full night. Alright. I think that's fine for like a little standalone little thing. I didn't want anything too crazy. We should add something. Maybe out in this area then. Pretty good area. We could make like a little island here if we wanted to. I kind of like having like a long sort of walkway. So I kind of liked this with the town sort of built up here with all the houses coming off of the main street. But I also like the canal idea here. So maybe a canal that's not as built up as this. Like these are just quite big. So if we could get another canal going, we've got actually a pretty good section here. And you can kind of see the squares don't necessarily line up quite right. So we're going to build up. That's the problem with the camera being a little funny. So you can kind of see how it naturally kind of curves and follows the paths we have. Is that too narrow? I feel like that's a bit narrow for the canal that I want. Okay, it is going to curve down. Make this fairly big, but I think we're going to do like smaller houses. And I could do multicolored small houses, kind of mixing it up. If you put them next to each other, they'll usually kind of blend the same colors together. So the trick here really is these are actually all connected in one. It's just you change the color and then it'll sort of automatically sort of separate them a little bit. Would like... Let's make this a little wider. Do I want both wider, though, is the question. You can kind of see once you go wider, sometimes you get these weird shapes. You can't really do anything about it. It sort of depends on the grid and the way the grid is set up. Don't necessarily have to do the whole thing the same. We can take stuff out depending on what we like as things get built up. But I think the idea... So here we want the houses on the canal. So rather than being away from the canal, we want them sort of on the canal. I don't necessarily want anything crossing the canal. So we're going to run into kind of weird shapes here if we keep advancing out. So let me just put a little bit more there. Okay. So I think we're going to start with... We'll put a little bit of a gap between as well, between the houses. I think on the ends... I tend to like symmetry, maybe a bit too much. But we have kind of a nice little spot here for an interesting shaped house. So we can do something a little different here. And then if I wanted to, we could even do kind of an odd structure. We could do all kinds of weird things, just depending on how you want to build things up, take things away. So we could connect those together, make a little deck. I don't really like that, but you know, just kind of showing things you can do. And then we can get sloped roofs depending on how you want to build stuff. So hoping we could get, I mean, it's kind of sloped-ish. Yeah, I can't decide where to like place doors and stuff or windows. Things like the laundry lines, that kind of stuff will just sort of naturally appear. And then I think, just for example, there's a certain way we can build this that like a hook will hang down low. Oh, oops. What did you just do? It's kind of easy to sort of accidentally click on something in the background. Trying to get like a hook. So you can kind of see there, like suddenly we'll have a deck. I don't have a way to sort of tell it for sure that I want a deck there. And if I build this up, it might continue, it might not. But now that the deck is there, we can kind of pare it back. Okay, and I was going to say, and it should stay there. It doesn't. So yeah, I kind of like just the squat little thing here. I think we're going to go maximum 3 stories, because these are only 2s, except for the really big ones. But I might just stick to 2 here, and then we'll do some different stuff, different colors. Could do maybe an overhang onto the... Nah, because that's going to add posts into the canal, and I don't like that. So let's go with... like I said, I feel like the red, orange, and these are kind of the better colors. So if I just do a space of 1... I don't want a tower, though. Now, if I put something like this, now we're going to get the 2 that look kind of similar, but they're changing. If I had this standalone, it would have the point, but because I'm doing different colors, it's showing a separation, even though there necessarily isn't one, and then kind of throwing that in. And then we'll put... So we'll do a few houses together. Then need to remember the colors we're using. So we could go up, but I kind of like that all together, just having a few, and then having some standalone houses as well. So I'm going to put on the opposite side, we'll build up a little house. So if you want to hang out, that's fine, but I don't want anything in the canal. I kind of like having the canal clear. I like that idea. Could do something kind of weird like this. Yeah, kind of like that. Little private area there. We'll come back. Give me the orange. Yeah, I wish we could do something hanging over that didn't have the struts all the way down. Like if it had struts that connect into the rest of the house, I would be fine with that. But it's not something we can do. We can try to get like all the way across, but that's a bit excessive. And I don't really like the way that looks that much. I could connect it down, but like I said, I don't want to, for this one, have it sort of going over the canal. I want to have the canal very clear in this one. And we'll stick to the 2. Have a few small houses here on the end, and I do like the way that they build the little stairways down to the water, especially considering this is supposed to be like a canal. I like that a lot. I like having the little gap on the end as well, so that works for me. I think that side is good. I could play around with this. So I'm doing something kind of very simple, but I've done like these really complicated things here just recently. And I don't necessarily like how this turned out. Like, I'm tempted to like take one of these out. I'd like to maybe respace them. I do think it looks decent. Like the canal is pretty good, and that we have a really good end piece here, even with the posts coming down in the canal. And there's some interesting structures and stuff, but I'm not really happy with how cluttered it looks. So we're doing something much less cluttered. So I think for here, what I'll do, we'll put like townhouses like this down on the end, and then we'll do smaller houses in. But for this, we're going to do like red and orange. It's a very chubby little spire. Does that change on the back? No. Yeah, maybe we'll just put a gap then and put a little house in, because that'll add the little stairwell on the outside. It'd be nice to have stairways on the inside, but I kind of want the houses on the outer part on this one, because we kind of went on the in here. It might look better if I do it inside, though. I do like that we have stairways going up to these. But I think it'd be better if everything is on the inside of the canal, maybe. And I could do that. I could just put the house there. Do that. So now we don't have those stairs there. I like the stairs next to these homes, but I like the idea of having all the stairs on the inside of the canal. And that's the kind of thing, like just building this, I can do whatever I want, however I want it. And if that's what I want to do, that's what I'm going to do. I mean, it's part of it is figuring out what I like and what looks good as I kind of throw it in there. And occasionally we'll get, you know, little life preservers and stuff thrown in, which is very nice. And now the camera's not being cooperative. I'll look down. Yeah, like I can't back the camera up anymore at this point. Yeah, I could put something in here, but it's going to be kind of weird if I do, I think. Changes that one as well. Interesting. Now I could jut something off on the ends from these. We could also go a little higher with them, potentially. Like now that it's here, if I wanted to mess with this, do I want to put that a little higher than the rest? Yeah, I think that kind of works. So it's kind of a smaller area, but along a nice canal here. And these don't connect. So I could make a connection at an end, maybe. So I think like this ending is quite nice with the two little spires. But if we did something down here where we had one overarching, I don't know. I've done so many overarching buildings lately that I kind of feel like not doing that. Like I feel like this turned out pretty interesting with all the homes kind of built off of the one street and then kind of out over the water, so all of them are built out over the water. It's like they might start in there and some of them are wholly in there, but most of them are kind of off and then connect down. And you can always just kind of undo stuff if you want to mess around with it and see. I don't know that we can add much land here. Fighting the camera here at the edge. Yeah, it's got like a big star here. It's not really good unless I want to build a tower, necessarily. I could do something odd, though. If I'm gonna do that, let's break it off. This is an odd-shaped one as well, but we can kind of live with it, maybe. Yeah, if we just connect a little bit. This connection I think is fine. It's this side because of the shape. I don't necessarily like this. It's okay. It's a good spot for a building. And I could go ahead and just remove this one. And we could instead put something here, but only really be a tower. Or not. Well, if we go 1, it's fine. If we go 2, it's kind of a fat tower. At 1, it's an odd little house. At this point, yeah, the camera's just fighting with me a bunch, so it's sort of being a problem to get in and look at stuff. Let's see a door. Okay, there's a door. Let's go with like a grayish. So let's build this up. See, once it connects, it does kind of the flat roof thing, but we can mess with this and change it. So we could do some interesting arches. We could just reconnect it really easy, really quick. We can go really high. Do something like this. Not too bad. Maybe doing that higher would be better. I didn't want to go too crazy high on this, but yeah, I think that actually looks pretty good. I don't think I want to go any higher, especially because we're going to go pointy. And being on the edge of the map like this, it's kind of hard to see. So I can get a view like from here. I don't know, that doesn't really fit in. It's like little village, castle. It's kind of the vibe it's given me, which I'm not sure is what I want. We could maybe drop it 1. So yeah, instead, go like this. Kind of like this. Like that. Kind of like this, and then like that. Yeah, it looks a lot smaller. It's more of a Dr. Seuss village. Almost like separate, like this is a separate house, but they would have to connect. I would think it would be cool if you could add ladders and stuff too. Like if they ever make another version of this or update it, it'd be kind of nice to have the ability to control that of like, put a ladder here, put a boat here, put a dock here, you know, that kind of stuff would be really nice. Choose what kind of roof you want. Those would be nice additions to something like this. We could go crazy and do, you know, weird jutting stuff sticking out, you know, this kind of thing, but I feel like this with the arches looks probably the best. So we want to have kind of a weird connection. We could also just make this, like, in my mind, a way to cross over from one point to the other. So something more like this, like an enclosed walkway to go between the two. That's also kind of nice. Let me take a look. I mean, I like the idea of that being a walkway between the two, so they can connect without having to use a boat. but I kind of feel like the other design was more interesting. If I could remember what I did. Just like this. Nope. Is that what it was? I think it was something like that. Yeah, I think I like that a little better. So yeah, just kind of a quick little bit of playing around with Townscaper just to kind of show what it looks like. Let's get rid of the grid. So yeah, just kind of added a little canal city area. Like I said, you could connect everything, but I like the idea of having all these little separate islands all over the place. And then having them sort of sending boats around to connect to different stuff. I like that idea. I like the canal idea, although these posts are a bit more in than I would like. It does leave a little bit of room, for like boats to get through. But I think it'd be really cool if you could add like boats. You could make, tell it to add docks certain places. It'll just sort of do what it does, and you can kind of learn the rules by trial and error. But yeah, it's kind of a fun little thing to play around with and spend some time on. Anyway, just in case people are interested, just a relaxing little game. Yeah, you see like everything else is so nicely spread out, and then this that I made is just clutter. It's just massive clutter. Um, yeah, I might have to do something to fix that. I do like the end. I'm not sure I like the color, so I might have to play with that and stuff. But yeah, this is Townscaper. I've been Disturbing Puppet. Thanks for coming by. Hopefully I'll see you again next time. Until then, have a good one.